Okay, so welcome back to our next Kinetic Control Tutor podcast. And today we're talking to Beate. So, hello, Beate.
Hello, Lincoln. Nice to
Hi.
talk.
And where are you? Yeah, great. So, where are you? Just letting me sort of know where you're based.
I'm based in Kinetic in South Africa, previously known as Port Elizabeth.
Right. Okay. So you're down there in South Africa, down there compared to where I am up here in the UK. Okay. Excellent stuff. And one of the Kinetic Control accredited tutor teams. That's great. And also you're doing some work with dynamic tape. So it'd be great to explore some of those ideas around both approaches to working clinically. So we're going for a series of questions. If you heard one of these sort of podcasts before, you sort of know where this is going to go. But yeah, it'd be great to get some ideas and some thoughts from yourself. I mean, one good thing to start with is you're a physio, and why is that? Why did you get involved in physiotherapy in the first place?
Yeah, I think I was always, my dad is a doctor and my mom comes from a medical background as well. And so I was always interested in medicine, but interested in sport as well. And I thought that physio would be a nice combination of the two. So I applied to study physiotherapy at Stellenbosch University, and I did that. I finished off there, enjoying what a physio seemed to do. I think I was a bit more interested in the neurology side of things. But then as life happened, I found myself in private practice and with a special interest in orthopedics and MSK health, so musculoskeletal health. And then, yeah, I think early on in my career, I realized that I wasn't as satisfied with possibly results that I was getting, or the reason I was expecting results, or what results I was expecting. And I just felt that there were so many questions left unanswered. And so I tried a few different ways of trying to get those questions answered. So I did a number of postgraduate courses, which answered a few of them. And then I found myself moving to the UK in 2014 to continue that search for answers.
Okay. All right. So hopefully you found some answers. Once you go to the UK, let's see what we can do here. But just winding it back a little bit is that you've mentioned there that sort of there is a sort of family tradition almost of sort of working in sort of the medical profession, and you then went through a process of sort of formal education for this, and was initially going down a different route. Sort of, you mentioned neurology, but because of the choices you made, somewhere along the line, you've sort of come more down the musculoskeletal route and sort of ended up with, I guess, with us within, I guess, Kinetic Control. Okay. And then you were finding that within that, maybe there wasn't quite, as you say, all those answers been supplied to some of those questions you had. So what was the, on leaving university, what was the first role you sort of got before the UK?
Okay, so in South Africa, what we do, so our degree is a 4-year honours degree. And then after our 4th year, we do something called community service. So that is government based. So we apply for certain positions, and we're basically placed in certain institutions. So like, for example, it could be a tertiary hospital, it could be a secondary, or it could be primary clinics, or numerous clinics across the country. So I was lucky enough to be placed in a city, a very small city called Grahamstown. It's now called Makanda. And I did my community service year at Settlers Hospital. So I was the only physio in that district. So the district included the hospital, which didn't have operating theatres, so there was no ICU, but did have, your general outpatient wards and things, your general wards, and then outpatient physio. And because of the demographic and the area, there were a lot of stroke patients. So together with that, myself and the occupational therapist and the speech therapist there at the time, really tried to provide a service for that very apparent need in that area. The other, outside of the hospital, there were numerous community clinics that we needed to attend on a monthly basis. And there was a lot of pediatric neurology. So lots of CP, lots of fetal alcohol syndrome, things like that. So I think that's where my interest in neurology came in. And also, thinking back, it was a lot more rehabilitation. There was a lot more rehabilitation in your treatment and your management, and one could see results. After that year, I then applied, there weren't any government posts available in the area that I wanted to live in. So that kind of led me down the private practice route. And there was a position open at a private practice in my hometown of Gqeberha. So I started off there, and then I moved myself off to the Western Cape, and then again into another private practice that was focused on orthopedics and musculoskeletal health. And then, as I said, in 2014, I made the decision to move to the UK, initially to Norwich, where again worked in a private practice. And then after, I think it was about 8 months in Norwich, I moved down to London, where I started up a position at Six Physio. I think from there, the way Six Physio treated was quite different. They had a lot more emphasis on rehabilitation, and which really interested me and suited me. I think coming from a South African background, we're very much more manual therapy focused as physios. Whilst I was there, I did some research into courses and had read Mark and Sarah's papers, as a young physio, and saw that they were presenting the Movement Solution 1 in London the following year. So I thought, well, heck, who better than to actually attend a course with the original, Sarah and Mark. That's where it started. I did the course, and then I met you at the course. And that was really, I think I remember sending messages to friends and family going, head is blown, this is my thing, definitely found my little area of interest.
So that so nicely brings in then the kinetic control element, which is, I guess, one of the questions I'm going to ask is that first exposure to kinetic control. You'd mentioned you'd come across it through the literature initially, and then seen that the Movement Solution 1 was running in London at that time when you were still based in London. And it certainly seemed before that there's been a fair amount of transition. You'd sort of move from job to job in different places. You'd gone to where the work was, and sometimes that involved thousands of miles of travel to get to that particular, that different job. So you can certainly sort of see the commitment there. It also sounds somewhat that the first exposure you had to working clinically with the rehab process with those particular patients you mentioned, maybe there was some sort of desire to get back to that sort of rehab intervention, working with people in that way. That was when you got to Six, that there's something similar going on. And then maybe Casey was offering that sort of systemized framework to put that in. Okay, so that makes sense. Yeah, I can see how that would work as a sort of a narrative about getting to that particular point in time. Okay, so you're on the course. It's 15 days, and as you say, there's a fair amount in there that was covered within the Movement Solution over 15 days. At what point in that do you go, here's all this great stuff and I can apply this clinically, and by the way, it would be good to think about delivering this as an educator, because that's again a very different step to make. Most people on the course don't do that. They're going, I can use this for my patients, as opposed to I'm going to teach my colleagues and peers this stuff. So, how did that happen?
I think I think just with my yeah, it all made absolute sense. I felt like all the boxes were ticked. I was finally getting clarity, getting answers to many of the questions that I'd been asking, or questions that I hadn't yet asked, and really was really excited. I think then going back to clinic to 6 and using it on myself, and seeing the results, I just really wanted to, share the news. I didn't really ever think of myself as teaching, but then, I think I might have asked, I can't now exactly remember, but I think I asked whether it was available in South Africa, because I was like, well, we've got to get it there.
Mm-hmm.
Then, obviously heard about Jacqueline being here. And then, we discussed further on, actually, would a tutor route be appropriate?
Okay. And I don't know if you recall, because obviously it's a little while ago, but the movement solution at that time, over 15 days, but over sort of 3 hits of 5. So was it after the first hit? Was it after the second hit? Or did it sort of, when did it kick in? You think, actually, yeah, I wanna get involved on the sort of delivery side of this?
I think it was probably the second and third one. I think, if I remember correctly, I may be wrong, but I think the first one I was training for the Ironman, so don't think I was really focused on too much. But once I ticked that one off the list, then I was keen for my next challenge, and it came in the academic form.
Okay, so we're getting the becoming the KC tutor is comparable to being involved in an Ironman competition. So I think that sort of sets a good standard there. Okay, excellent. I know the exam's not short, so excellent stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd do an Ironman before I did that exam again.
I recall that exam. Yes. Okay. So we get through then onto the KC program. We are becoming a tutor. And again, how was that route of development from deciding, yeah, you're going to go for it, and then to the point when you get the badge, get across the line of becoming a KC tutor? So how was that sort of process of developing?
It was certainly development. I think it was clinical development, it was personal development, academic development. What really stuck with me was the difference between attending a course and getting that clinical knowledge, but then having to change the way or adjust the way you describe concepts or think about concepts in order to actually teach it. So I think, I mean, that definitely made me a better clinician as well, because one had to really, look at it from all sides, look at it inside out, look at it backwards and forwards, until you really, confident with the content. And it was challenging. It was but a fantastic challenge that led to me being a tutor, and, as you say, getting that badge.
How was that experience of delivering that first KC course?
Well, luckily for me, my first course was together with both Sarah and Mark. So, I was given a certain area to cover. So that was really great because, one could get good live feedback from them as well. And constructive criticism as to how one might explain that differently and things like that. So that was really great. And then I think my first solo course was in South Africa.
And how was that? So you're flying solo now, and it's just you, and you've got your room of clinicians there, and you're delivering the KC content. So how's this?
Love it. So I really enjoy it. I think, and the physios, the clinicians that join us really enjoy it too. And I think a lot of them leave going, this makes absolute sense. This is what we've been looking for. So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Just talking now, I remember I also, one of the first workshops that I did was in Egypt at one of the OMTA conferences with the team at Prime Physio. And that was, I mean, that was just fantastic. Having a really big group of really enthusiastic physios, their knowledge, their academic, their research knowledge was fantastic. Asked a lot of questions, you know, and yeah, that was also very exciting.
So that was another key moment in that tutor route. Okay, so we've delivered our first course. We've worked with Mark and Sarah. We've then delivered solo. We've then presented at these conferences. And one thing we haven't mentioned is your involvement with dynamic tape. So somewhere online, you've also become very familiar with and also involved in the delivery of dynamic tape. So what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I think we have COVID to thank for that. So obviously during COVID, Ryan Kendrick, founder of Dynamic Tape, couldn't travel. And so he contacted me, I think through, you know, the mutual relationship with Chimera Movement Science, and asked if I would be interested in becoming a tutor for Dynamic Tape. So, I mean, to be honest, Dynamic tape, I have never really been a massive fan of tape, but the tape that I knew of was kinesio tape. And very much because when it was on me, I found it quite irritating. So when I heard about it, well, I previously heard about dynamic tape. That wasn't the first introduction to it. But then I thought, well, yeah, let's look into this. Let's take it a little bit more seriously. And I must say, the results that one gets from using a biomechanical tape like dynamic tape are really complementary to what I do. Obviously, we don't use it all the time, but we'll, when necessary, it makes a really nice difference. And I think the reason why Ryan possibly looked into getting kinetic control tutors on board was because the two go hand in hand, really. The way that one clinically reasons how to apply the tape is very much based on the kinetic control principles of coordination efficiency and, you know, synergistic recruitment and things like that.
Yeah, again, coming from my perspective, there is the trajectory of motion, there's a segment of motion, and it fits very well with what Ryan does with his approach with taping. And again, I think that's a nice point you're raising around that. Oh, I sort of have a perception of taping and it's this, but actually when you dig into this particular product of dynamic tape, it is different to most people's perception of what taping does. I think similarly that if people say, oh, I know what a movement screen is or a movement assessment is, and they could blanket everything under a certain heading of a certain type of movement assessment, and they may miss the finesse or resolution you get from other approaches. And I would put under that heading kinetic control, for example. Okay, so kinetic control tutor involved in the dynamic tape delivery as well now. So, and you talked about how these things go together. Where's this all going next for you? So what's happening next in terms of development? Because obviously there's been a lot of that already over the past sort of 10 years. So what's happening next?
So next is I'm planning for myself. I'm planning to do a bit more research into this area to see if we can really use that as a springboard to get the news or the news of kinetic control out there and the information out there that movement. How we can use movement, because I think a lot of time physios are seen to prescribe exercise, and I think that that's actually not the case. I know Sarah and I have previously discussed this and said that we don't prescribe exercises, we prescribe a change in movement or in mechanism. And that's really what we are skilled to be, is to be movement specialists and to be able to assess the movement system, to be able to identify areas that need improvement or that may be a potential cause for the symptoms that one might be feeling, and then to be able to retrain that. So we don't just want to treat people's symptoms, we want to actually identify the cause of their symptoms, that underlying mechanism that might be driving it, and be able to address that.
All right, so we're looking forward to that research and what comes out of that, and digging deeper into this relationship between, I think, performing some sort of motor behavior. We could describe it as some people might call it as exercise, it might be called as some sort of retraining intervention, but how that particular motion in the body has what we think is some influence on a mechanism that has relevance to sort of clinical presentations, and how we can put those things together, how we can build support and evidence for that. And also maybe where we're going wrong, how we can do it better. So yeah, it would be fascinating to see what comes out of that research. And then and that's for you, and then sort of just looking a little bit further ahead to the field itself, and I guess this movement approach we've been taking this conversation down is, in the next sort of, I guess, 5 years, where, from your perspective of what you see clinically, from what you see your colleagues or peers do, where do you think this is going, this movement approach? What do you think is going to be different in sort of 5 years' time to where we are now?
Well, hopefully what will be different is that we will have a very much more movement-focused profession, especially in South Africa. I think we've got such a manual therapy biased background, but to continuously fill up that toolbox of movement, of treatment techniques, and to bring movement into that, I think that's going to really revolutionize the profession here. In terms of movement apps and all sorts of technology and things like that, I think that as there are so many out there, and as we are able to support, bring out evidence to support what we're doing, being able to identify movement, identify certain patterns, and then to address those, I think, movement apps and technology like that will definitely develop to support that.
Okay, so if the evidence is there, then it might sort of redirect where funding goes, where technology decides to place its emphasis in development of new products as well. Yeah, okay, I can see the relevance of that. Yeah, okay. Well, we've found out an excellent amount of information, and a great story from, I think, where things have started to where you're going next, and certainly it's been a route of development along the way. So Beate's going to say thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for yours.
And yes, indeed, and we'll catch you next time on another one of these to see how that research is going. Catch you later.
All right, bye.